Hiya, I'm Gemdust/Topaz, and I'm self-proclaimed weirdo cringe queer. Gender-wise, I'm a trans male boy thing who uses neopronouns and xenogenders, and species-wise, I'm a polykin Therian and otherkin with a Mary Sue archetype. None of that makes sense to a normal person, so I wanted to make an educational video for folks to understand some of my unconventional identities. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Gender identity. I summarize my gender as trans male boy thing, which is accurate but doesn't include all the xenogenders I identify with. A xenogender is a gender identity that goes beyond typical understandings of gender. This could include genders relating to concepts, animals, and aesthetics. People may use xenogenders for a multitude of reasons. In my case, I'm a boy, but I also use xenogenders to describe certain aspects of myself that affect my gender presentation and internal identity. Specific labels I use include doll boy, a label I use because it describes how I'm a boy who enjoys being dressed up and looking pretty, like a doll. Plurigender, an identity I use due to my gender identity and presentation being influenced by 2010's rave culture. Rot freak, a reclamation of how queers are often described as gross freaks, emphasizing how I want to be weird and free regardless of judgment. I also use neopronouns, which is a similar concept to xenogenders. Neopronouns are any pronouns outside the typical pronoun sets, such as she, her, he, him, or they, them. I use neopronouns partially because they sound cool, and partially because they make me feel euphoric. I feel most comfortable being referred to as a boy or as a weird little creature. That's why I'm particularly fond of them, its, and things. But, Topaz, why would you want to feel like a creature? Well, non-human and ultra-human identities. I identify as a Therian and otherkin. A Therian is someone who identifies as a real animal, whether it be spiritually, psychologically, or even physically. If I went into every reason someone might identify as an animal, this video would be too long. Just know that in my case I identify as a cat because I act like a cat without really thinking about it. I meow as a vocal stem, I make biscuits with my paws, and I enjoy being rubbed and pet. I just generally feel like a cat with a human body. I am also an otherkin. An otherkin individual identifies as something non-human. This can range anywhere from fantasy creatures to fictional characters, and even includes real animals, like Therian does. People who are otherkin of fictional characters are often called fictionkin. I'm polykin, which means I am an otherkin of multiple things. My kin types include sparkle dogs, dolls, demons, and gods, though I will specify. A lot of godkins are described as delusional or crazy. I think if you're still aware that you're in a human body and you're okay with, and you're not trying to start a cult to get people to worship you, you're probably fine. Like, being a godkin isn't an insane concept. I am also a fictionkin of AC Void from Versus Void and Boyfriend from Friday Night Funkin'. I often experience shifts or states of mind where I feel more like one kin type. I might act more cat-like one day and more dog-like on another. I can also have multiple shifts at a time, acting or feeling like multiple kin types at the same time. I also identify as an archetrope. An archetrope was someone who identifies as a common archetype in media. In my case, I identify as a Mary Sue because I am many species, like one of those cringe OCs that are often called Mary Sues. As well as the fact that I feel most euphoric when I convince myself that I'm perfect and can do no wrong, like a Mary Sue. I will admit that particular mindset isn't the healthiest. I'm working on it. Posic and objectum sexuality. Posic stands for perceived object sentience, individuality, and consciousness. It basically means what it sounds like, perceiving an object as a sentient individual for one reason or another. In my case, I perceive objects differently due to my autism, as well as my connection to that object. Many Posic individuals are also OS, or objectum sexuality. Objectum is the attraction to inanimate objects. It's often used to describe sexual or romantic attraction, but can also be used to describe platonic or familiar attraction. I'm attracted to objects in every way possible, most of my platonic attraction going to plushies and most of my romantic attraction going to old tech such as bulky computers and MP3 players. I'm also attracted to music, finding speedcore to be especially hot. Cringe culture and why it's stupid. Cringe culture only exists to stifle your individuality as a living being, all to make you fit in. If the only thing stopping you from identifying a certain way is that people will find it cringe, do it anyway. I promise you'll find people that understand and accept you. I know I did. So go ahead, use that niche micro label, use its pronouns, identify as a dog, and most importantly, be yourself. Feel free to ask questions about anything I discuss here, and most of all, have a wonderful day, my YouTube fellows.